Are we normalizing domestic abuse? Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me as always is my loving husband, Barrett McNabb. There are a number of videos on TikTok with young women claiming that they were randomly punched by men that they did not know on the street, all in the middle of the day, and mostly white women. Let's watch some videos.
You guys, I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my God, it hurts so bad. I can't even talk. Literally, I fell to the ground, and now this giant goose egg is forming, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks so crazy.
I mean, let's take a look at another one.
So I just got punched in the face walking home. I was literally like leaving class. I turned the corner, and I was looking down, and I was looking at my phone and like texting, and then out of nowhere, this man just came up and hit me in the face. I'm like actually in shock right now. I'm just like walking home because what else do you do? But I just texted my friends being like, hi, I just got punched in the face. And then they sent me a TikTok of this other girl in New York who got punched in the face, and she was looking at her phone. And I don't know if this is like a thing that's going around, but I guess if you're in New York right now and you're walking while looking at your phone, maybe don't do that. Maybe head on a swivel. I guess we're gonna be super aware of our surroundings.
Yeah, that's good advice. But I mean,
she's recording and walking down the street at the same time.
Exactly. But you know, there are a number of theories that people are talking about. Is this a gang initiation, which, you know, goes to the broken windows theory of having lax laws and allowing minor crimes to go unpunished makes people escalate some of the other more serious crimes. And, you know, so there's this no bail that people are just getting released on their own recognizance, and there's no penalties. So, I mean, it could be something that because they know they can get away with it, that's why they're doing it.
Well, also, with increased illegal immigrants coming into the city, they don't really fit in or have a place. And so oftentimes when young men, as we've talked many times, most of these people coming over look to be about, gang age,
right.
Men. And so they are probably looking for a place of belonging. So if it is related to gangs, then it's some sort of initiation that would make sense, because that's why most people join gangs to begin with. Now, I believe it was this last one that we watched. One woman said it happened next to a recovery center, meaning like for mental health or drugs. And if you're on drugs or if you have mental issues, you're not going to do things that normal people wouldn't do. And so, of course, punching someone in the head is something normal people don't do.
Right. This is just a a huge problem, because I see an escalation. We don't have this video, but the New York Post reported that a 57-year-old woman was knocked out so hard that it broke her jaw.
And I think knocked out 3 of her teeth too. And she's older, so it's not just young women. So
right.
if you're older or something, you may think, well, I'm too old for that.
Well, the person was arrested, but the guy had multiple arrests, including attacking a cop. But again, it goes to this theory of low bail or no bail. He was let go even though he assaulted a police officer. It's just absolutely amazing. We have another video here as well, and I want to talk about this because it seems as though she is with her coworkers.
Another woman and 2 guys.
Yeah.
So I have fallen victim to.
You can see a giant knot on her head.
The men in New York City are lifting an elbow or trying to punch innocent girls on the street. Except I wasn't on my phone. I was with my coworkers.
Yeah, we were just talking.
Walking in Times Square. Yeah. So be safe.
All right, so here's a problem that I have with this is obviously she was with male coworkers and they're laughing about it, but they didn't do anything. I'll be honest, if somebody hit my wife, in the middle of the street, people would have to pull me off of him. I would pummel the guy so badly. And, I think the reason that people are not doing this is just this supposed toxic masculinity is bad, and therefore you're not supposed to come to the aid of a woman.
Well, I mean, I think there are different factors here. We've created this generation of men, these feckless men, like,
right.
Screaming toxic masculinity at them, which really exposes toxic feminazi to me. But you can't expect people to do the right thing when there's a deterrence for the right instructive and incentive structures there. Like you demonize someone all the time. You can't expect them to help you. Like you make fun of your classmates in school. They're not going to help you when you spill your stuff all over out of your book bag. They're not going to help you. They don't like you because you demonize them. And you can't constantly reward criminals and punish good people when they do the right thing. They're not going to want to do the right thing. And then just to know that the criminals are going to be let out 2 hours later.
Right.
I mean, so the deterrent structures are all wrong. The incentive structures are all wrong.
When we talk about Penny and his defense of women and children and other passengers on a subway train, and he unfortunately did killed the person, but it wasn't intentional. He
had like 2 people helping him.
People were helping him, right? And so, but he stepped up, and a New York City councilwoman was just absolutely going off the rails, demonizing Penny. But then in a turn of the script, here she is. She's talking about why aren't men stepping up to help women?
Because you put them in jail.
Because the men who step up get thrown in jail. And so it makes it, well, I didn't see it. I'm not going to step up because I don't want to get prosecuted for defense of a third person.
Yes, but those 2 men are like being very casual.
Yeah, they're laughing.
Well, actually, everyone's being shockingly casual, but yeah, the men, they're not upset. And so, there's all these videos on YouTube about how women don't want to have kids. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, some of us, we're like 13 years old, and I'm like, I want a bunch of kids. I want 16 kids, blah, blah, blah. Some women are programmed that way, but then there are other women who don't really feel that drive.
Right.
And, you could blame it on, society, nurture, nature, or whatever. But I think also some of it is you're meeting these weak men that, yes, women have partly created, but it's not exactly inspiring because to become a mother is really hard. You do make a lot of sacrifices. It is a lot of work. And so for most of us, we do need a little inspiration to do it. And so if you don't meet the right man and you're not already like programmed that way to want to have kids, of course you're not going to want to have kids. Like I wasn't that way until we got married. Then I'm like, okay, this could, this is a good thing. Like someone else I want, to be replicated and put out into the world. And I believe it was the actress from Big Bang Theory, Kylie Coco is her name.
Okay.
I read an article where she was like, I didn't really want kids, but then I met my husband, and I was like, I want more of this man put out into the world. And so,
Yeah, well, a lot of the
you got to be inspired sometimes.
A lot of the comments in these videos are that the women should have been going to the police instead of filming TikTok. And there are a number of women that have gone to the police and filed police reports. But it's important to do that because if it's unreported, then it doesn't get thrown into statistics to show that crime is going up or going down.
People making the policies are the ones that are making this. They're reading the statistics. So if you downplay the statistics, then sorry, they're dumb enough as it is when things are in their face.
Exactly. But here's a woman that was really brave. Her video is really long. It's about 3.5 minutes. And because we don't want to get a copyright strike, we're not going to play a full 3-minute video. But she was punched in the face. I'll sum up her story. She was punched in the face, and the man kept coming after her until finally some bystanders did kind of create a wall to allow her to maneuver away. But he kept looking like he was going to continuously punch her. Now, she was brave enough. She did wind up filing a police report, but she was brave enough to go back and then take a photograph of the guy. And so we're just going to jump in at the part where she's talking about where she took a photograph. And she had heard about a number of these incidences happening, and she just wanted to know if it was the same person. So let's take just a real quick look.
Here's the photo of the man that attacked me today when I was in Chelsea in Manhattan. This is the man right here that attacked me today. He is wearing a black puffer coat. There's some sort of like blue lining in the hood, maybe a sweatshirt or something. He's clearly wearing something underneath the coat, which is he has this hood up. He had the light colored jeans and then also these pretty distinctive white shoes with this orange stripe on them. Here's a more close-up view. You can see kind of the angle of his face here. Unfortunately, I didn't get any photos with him actually looking at me or the camera, but please, if you know this person, please reach out to me or to the NYPD. Itself was pretty horrible, getting attacked in the middle of the day, in the middle of public with people all around, a situation where I genuinely felt pretty safe. But arguably what made it even worse was how somebody responded. I ran over to some cops that were crossing the street, and I yelled for them. I yelled for help. And these police officers turned around. I explained the situation to them. My adrenaline's still rushing. You know, I can see the man standing on the street. He's walking down the street. And I'm explaining what happened. And these cops turn to me and they say, "Unfortunately, ma'am, we're traffic cops, so we can't do anything to help you."
Well, that's great.
Couldn't they have held him there until
they
normal cops got there or something?
They could have probably detained him and said, "Sir, we're going to go ahead and detain you so that you don't have freedom of movement until we can get another officer here." They probably could have done that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been reasonable suspicion. You have a person that's identifying the crime and is clearly being a witness. So there's definitely a reasonable suspicion to detain the person. And that's disheartening. So this woman is not a native New Yorker. She apparently only got to New York City a couple of months ago, and she is from Minnesota. So this is, welcome to the Big Apple type of thing.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, this is just, this is a problem. This is a real big problem, and it's not a problem because obviously these people are not dead. They are not in the hospital. Now, the one woman with the broken jaw, she was in the hospital, but still, the problem is it's going to you will see an escalation if there are not prosecutions for this. You will see an escalation.
People will keep doing what you let them get away with. And I understand that it's, not exactly hopeful to go file a police report and with the idea that they're going to be let go, an hour later. But you have to think you're in a country where, you speak the language and, women are oftentimes believed because some people aren't so lucky when they get attacked.
Yes.
So when we were in Morocco, which was 11 years ago, so Barrett often went to other countries for a business trip. I went to the park and I was walking back, and about 50 feet from the place where we lived, I'm walking, and then all of a sudden I'm on the ground. And I'm like, well, okay, the sidewalk sucks. What happened? And I look up, and there are two boys, 17 or so, in polo sweaters, pulling on my exercise armband, and I'm being dragged on the ground. And, I don't speak Arabic. I barely speak any French. And so I just start saying, m'aidez, like, please, s'il vous plaît, no. And finally, the Velcro from the band rips, and they take off. And I take off after them.
Like a good Georgia girl.
Yes. But they had the keys to the house, and you were away, and no one from the embassy lived anywhere near us. So I had to get the keys. And so I'm running after them, and then they turn onto a wider street. I'm screaming bloody murder, m'aidez. And, people are coming out onto the street because they hear me screaming so loudly. And, you know, these kids soccer is so huge over there. They play soccer from the time they're, you know, a year and a half. And so, of course, they can run faster than I can. Any 17-year-old boy can. And so they just take off. And when I see all these people coming out from the woodwork, I'm like, okay, I have zero chance of catching up to them. Like, maybe someone could talk to me or something. I don't know. And so I have like 20 people around me. I don't speak the language. But fortunately, one person stepped up that could speak English. And so I'm talking to them for a few minutes about what happened. And then a couple minutes later, a businessman in a car pulls up next to me, says he saw what happened, followed the boys. They ran past a Moroccan police van. The businessman pointed them out to the policeman and described what happened, and the policemen were able to get the two boys. And so, you know, it's kind of risky knowing what had just happened to me. But I got in the car with the Moroccan businessman. You know, he's dressed very well, and he drove me to the police station. It is nothing like Law and Order SVU. It looks more like a house, and like I got out of the car. I turn, and like right there at the entrance of the building are the two boys, and the police have my iPod, and you know, I had ordered like a custom color and ordered it like 6 years before that as a reward for graduating college to myself, and so it was definitely mine. And so they asked me, you know, is this yours? And I said yes. And then of course the boys are like, and we're like this close. The police grab one of the boys' book bags and start hurling it, like beating the kid with it. And I was like, I could feel the wind from this book bag just being used to hit this kid.
You're not in America right now.
No. And so then I spent at least an hour and a half. Thank goodness for this businessman, because he was able to translate, you know, just going over and over and over what happened. And, you know, I got in touch with someone from the embassy. And so finally they sent someone from the embassy to help, you know, translate, going over and again and again and again. And then finally I was allowed to leave. So it was about 3 hours just rehashing the same story.
Right.
And then, you know, I got home because I got my keys back, and I don't want to be in the house. And fortunately, the neighbors came back, so I spent some time with them, and we got like the cheapest cell service imaginable in Morocco. And so, like, I had a hard time getting an email to Barrett to tell them what happened. And it was a rough time sleeping until you got home.
Right. Well,
I just kept reliving it over and over.
Well,
again.
yeah, and completely understandable. So I was in Saudi Arabia on a training, and you know, I got a text message that you had been attacked, but that was it. And I was so panicked, like, you know, attacked. Is she in the hospital? Is she, you know, severely injured?
The original email, because, you know, the cell service sucked too much for text.
Right.
Was like this long, and then it kept dropping, and so I'd have to retype it, and it just gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Right. So I'm in kind of this panic because I had lost my cell phone in UAE on the previous portion of the trip, and you know, I had to use you know, a colleague's government cell phone, and so yeah, I was in the dark, and I was worried sick. Because I was in Saudi Arabia, you were in Morocco, so half a world apart, and it was a long flight to get back with multiple
I think
stops.
you got back at like 4 a.m.
Right.
And this is 2 days later. And later that morning, the house that the embassy had rented for us had these little cameras by the outer wall of the house. And so I look at it, and there are like four men speaking this really awkward English. And I'm like, I think this has something to do with, you know, 2 days ago. And I knew from my experience at the police department being a woman, of course, I knew that from the previous year of being there, but still being a woman, you're not going to be believed. So I go upstairs, I wake Barrett up. I'm like, Barrett, this has to be related to the other day. Can you please talk to them? So he's talking to the men at the gate. And
Yeah, so I go outside.
I'm behind the door listening, and they tell Barrett, oh, well, these two boys, they're going to be sent to jail, and it'll ruin their lives if you say that they did this to her. And I'm like, all they had to do was leave me alone. They were dressed better than I was, and
Right.
I had no money. And the boys' excuse was, well, rich Americans just threw their iPods away.
Right. So in talking to the men, they were the boys' teachers. And again, when we say boys, they were 17, 18 years old, right?
Yes.
So they're young men, to be perfectly clear. And so they did. They said, look, you and your wife are ruining the lives of these boys. And I said, no. It had been one thing if you had grabbed the iPod out of my wife's hand and took off, but you shoved my wife to the ground and you drug her on the ground by the iPod and by her hair.
And my arm was black and blue
Yeah.
for several weeks.
I said, you could only imagine what was going to go through her mind as she's being drugged towards some bushes. And I said, so no, we will be prosecuting to the fullest extent of the law. And they actually got 6 months in jail, but because it was two of them, they got a gang modifier, and their sentence was doubled to a year in prison in a Moroccan jail. So, I have zero sympathy for them.
Yeah, and seeing things like this, with people getting out and, just this whole upside down incentive structure where criminals get rewarded reminds me of stuff that goes on overseas. And this is not
Right.
what America is supposed to be. And so, just be grateful, women, ladies, that you live in America, not just where you speak the language, but also you don't need a male witness for you to be believed, and someone from the embassy to be believed, and your husband testifying for you to be believed.
Right.
So, yeah, please go to the cops.
Yeah, absolutely. And just over the years, I say this again and again, but you are extremely brave. Again, what's a good Georgia girl do when she gets shoved down by two men? She gets up, dusts herself off, and takes off after him. And so absolutely brave for you, brave for the whole ordeal. I was, obviously very sad that I was on this business trip, and just, to go from Saudi Arabia back over to Morocco took forever. But I was in a tizzy the whole time, worried about my wife. But you did the right thing. You talked to the police, and we went through the prosecutor. Well, I always found it, discovery, like how did they find our address? Well, it turns out that the defense lawyer got our file because discovery is different over in Morocco than in the
that was
United
really
States.
scary.
And it had our home
them
address.
knowing where we lived, so I was afraid to leave for a while.
It was beyond scary. But it's super important to report this stuff to the police because there are city officials in New York that are saying, hey, these TikToks are kind of belying the fact that New York is a very safe city, and it seems because there's a rash of these that this is going on. Well, from the statistics of New York City Police, the felony assaults are up 3% over the prior year, and misdemeanor assaults are up by 10% over the same period. And this is without people reporting. So this is just,
Yes.
and
it, there's only one of you. It only has to happen to you.
Exactly. So please stay vigilant. One of the things that I could recommend is that you definitely have situational awareness. And I know a lot of these women were looking at their phone. I know it's common to look at your phone as you're walking, but really you need to have your head on a swivel. I highly recommend that you not have earbuds in so that you can't hear anything. You've just completely got yourself in this cocoon. Now, first of all, it's not your fault. So even if you have all of these things going on, it's not your fault that you got punched. You should be able to be in your own bubble, in your own world, with sight and sound completely, immersed in whatever you're listening to or whatever, and go about your business and be safe. That should happen. But my recommendation is that you have situational awareness, that every once in a while, turn around and look behind you. Turn around and look behind you. If you feel uneasy that there's somebody following you, I know there's a lot of stoops. Just like go sit down on some steps, or kind of lean against a guardrail, on the fences that you see in these brownstones and things like that. And then just immediately, look behind you. And if somebody is following you, it becomes beyond awkward, because they either have to stop and do the same thing that you're doing and just, immediately, kind of trip over themselves as you stop. They have to stop because you looked at them, or they have to pass you by. And keep on going, so that it doesn't look like they're following you. So just please be vigilant. If you do have a male companion with you, they should be looking around as well. And it's nice to have wonderful conversations and go through Times Square and things like that. But with these type of things rise, is just a suggestion that you keep your head on a swivel, have situational awareness.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this. We want to, make sure that we get it out to as many people as possible. And please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.